Hey buddies, welcome to AmassGames. My name is Simon. Today we're going to have a setup, play and review the game Scout by Oink. Now this happens to be the second edition, and that's because it's got the 2022 SPIEL.digital symbol on here where it was nominated. This is a ladder game, a ladder climbing game. For 2 to 5 players, takes 20 minutes to play. I'm going to set it up as a 3-player game. Now, the amount of rounds you play is equal to the number of players, and everybody is going to take a certain amount of cards depending on the number of players. So in a 3-player game, you're taking 12 cards each. Just to save a bit of time, I've already set up some of the scoring tokens you'll be using. So we're playing over 3 rounds. Aim of the game is to get the highest amount of points, and the way that's going to work is as follows. When the deck runs out, when you are out of cards in your hand, that triggers the end of the round. So everybody's going to have 12 cards each, and when you first get dealt your cards, you can either have them this way up, or if you're not happy with them, you can have them that way up. The aim of the game is to keep playing out cards and score points, doing 3 different actions. Let me show you how it works. So everybody is going to find who's going to start. So let's say I start. For the next round, it'll be this player, then it'll be this player. And I play out a 2. The next person has to play a card higher than that. So they happen to play a 7. What's going to happen is they're going to take this card and score 1 point. So it's going to go in their score pile. Now, the next player, out of interest, doesn't happen to have an 8 or a 9, so they can play a run. A run consists of 2 cards. All these actions so far are known as a show action. I'm showing you that I've got a 5 and a 6. If this person plays a 5 and a 6, it is higher than a single card. 2 cards always beats 1 card. Greater amount of cards always beats a fewer amount of cards. So they take, again, 1 card. Now it's through to this player's turn, and instead of going higher, so if you happen to have a run which happens to have a higher, lower value initially, so in this case it happens to be, let's say, a 6 and a 7 or an 8 and a 9, something like that, then they would beat it. However, if you don't have that or you don't want to play that, you might want to play a pair. A pair will always beat a run, and always remember 2 cards always beats 2 cards if it is a pair over a run. In this case, any pair will count, hence me showing you 2 1s. It could be 2 9s if you wish to. Now that's going to be the show action. The scout action is something that allows you not to play a card, but to take a card. So imagine this is player's turn. They wish to take this card. They're going to give 1 victory point to this player, and now the reason why they took that card is because they had a 2 in their hand, and now 1 and 2 is better, of course, than a single card. So they did not take any cards, however, or play any cards. This person now obviously has this card in play. It's now this person's turn to try and beat a 1. And now in this case, I don't know what's in their hand. It happens to be a 3, it beats it, so now that goes down. And now it's obviously back to this player's turn, and they can play these 2 cards. However, they could do that, end of the game, makes no difference. In this instance, let's just say they had another card in their hand, doesn't really make much difference. They might want to play their show and scout action, or scout and show action. You can play it once per round, and what's going to happen is you can pick up a card and play it down. Now, regardless, that would have happened anyway because they had enough to beat it, but let's just say they didn't. Now, of course, they could play that down, and in this instance, it would trigger at the end of the round. Anybody with cards left in their hand, those are minus points. You're going to count up how many cards you've accumulated. So this person has accumulated, let's say, 3 points. They happen to have got a scouting one as well, so they've got 4 points. They've got 0 minus points. This person didn't have any scout cards. They had they had 1 scoring point, and let's say they had 3 in their hand, so you can get minus points. So you flip these over, and you just take -2 and a -1, and these go all the way down to -20. So you do this until you've played it, in this case, in a 3-player game, 3 rounds, and then you tally up to see your final score. Now, you don't have to use these. You can use a score pad. You can use an app as well on a smartphone, something like that. And ultimately, what I think about this game is I have played a ladder game like this, which was in the public domain. A show tea was its name, taught to me by a Portuguese woman over in France. I was playing it with a Norwegian bloke as well, and I very much enjoyed it. It's my favourite public domain card game. Like Uno, which is another commercial game like Scout, that was also based on a public domain game called Crazy Eights. Now that game has sold over 880 million copies. I can see why it's so popular and why so many people like Scout, but for me, I've been used to this game for over 20 years, and so I'm whelmed by it. I'm not overwhelmed. I think it's an enjoyable game. I do give it a good rating. It is higher than average for me, so my average rating being 6.38 over 2,300 different board game reviews, and I give this around a 6.6 or something like that. Now, interestingly, one thing I didn't show you, but is important, is you have your deck of cards, and for some reason, you might want to deliberately play out a card. So when you play out a card, you might want to play your 8 here, because then you can play a 3 and a 4. You can never change the order of your cards, so that's important. Now, sometimes it can get confusing looking at a card because you play this and they see this, they need to look at the smaller value. So I think there could be some orientation differently. All these cards have got numbers on them. They've all got various things on here like a trapeze, and we've got a bicycle and stuff like that. No theme going on here. I mean, Uno chose not to bother with a theme. In this case, fair play, at least they've done something, but I don't think it's necessary. This is going to be how to set up play and review playlist, the AmassGames playlist, the Family Rate playlist, and the micro game playlist. Also an SPIEL playlist, because that is where I picked this up. And as I mentioned in the other video, the unboxing teaser trailer preview video, this copy has actually been handled by the designer. It was in shrink, but it was used in an award just to show people, and I had to borrow my copy at last minute. Apart from that, also check out the comments best in YouTube as this is shared. This is in 4K, and also head through to check out the description whereby you can support the channel via Patreon. You can head through to Linktree as well, where there are occasionally competitions, but they are time sensitive, so they do disappear. Also follow along on Facebook to join the discussion there, and lastly on Instagram and the podcast where this does get discussed. And a great example of an accessory I use to show my cards, which is a lot better than leaving your hand, which is a lot harder to see if you want to flip your cards, which you can do at the beginning of each round. So again, in a 3-player game, that is 3 rounds. Of course, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and let me know your thoughts. And there we go, that's the game. This is also the French and German edition, so you can play with those cards too. And again, more players, you're playing with more cards. So we have a 9 and a 10, but you do take that out in a 3-player game. So you take the 10s out. That's it. Any questions, of course, do let me know in the comments are best. Thanks for now, back to the table.